for us to be able to talk about these sacred medicines in a safe container and to be able to do this work together. This is really special, and I really cherish it. So how many people here know what the traditional Amazonian plant Dieta is? Are familiar with that process? Okay, a good amount of people. Cool. I'm going to skim over some details, and then we'll fill in any holes a little later in the questions. So in the summer of 2014, I traveled to Peru for 6 months, and I had a burning question. I learned about the curanderos, the healers of traditional Amazonian plant medicine, and their technologies for spiritual and psychological and physical healing. And how did they learn how to use these entheogens? We kind of touched on this before. Like, how do we learn how to set the appropriate containers to use these entheogens? Well, these curanderos learn it from the plants themselves. And so, having experienced firsthand the powerful effects of ayahuasca and plant medicines, I wanted to know, how do the plants teach these curanderos? What do they teach? And what do the curanderos actually do with what they learned? So what's happening there? So I traveled to Peru, and I asked Shipibos, Mestizos, Ashaninkas, and Gringos, what did the plants teach? And time after time, they told me songs. The plants teach songs. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm missing something here. What is it about these songs? And then I landed at one center where a maestro told me, just kind of randomly, he approached me and goes, El secreto la más profundo. The most profound secret. You know, like, okay. And so I'll tell you guys in a minute what that is. I have to keep you engaged. So to tell you a little bit about this research, why did I do this research? The purpose was threefold. It aims to address some holes in the literature around ayahuasca. Right now there's a lot of emphasis around the actual entheogen ayahuasca, but in the south, in Peru, the ayahuasca is just one component of a large pharmacopoeia of medicines, and the other palos, the trees, and the plants are just as important, if not more. Second, for those of us who are users of entheogenic plant medicines, I hope to propose an integrative framework that will help us to understand, set intentions, and further integrate our experiences a little more. And third, I hope to do a little bit of bridging across indigenous psychologies and modern psychologies, especially eco-psychology. But in the end, you're going to find that I'm actually proposing a lot more questions than answers. So you'll find that there's a lot of discovery in this process. To bracket myself a little bit, I am emphasizing the psychotherapeutic use of plant medicines largely because I am a total beginner in this form of medicine. And so really what I was aware of was the psychological aspects of it. It goes so much farther. It's a really long path. And I'm hoping that understanding psychology is useful to all of us here. And also, the process of the plant dieta is very personal, and of course it's very different for an indigenous person than a Western person. So I'm speaking from a Western perspective. But ultimately, I came to understand that the plant dieta experience is not only healed my body, my mind, and my spirit, but it also connected me into a lived cosmology of the indigenous people, one that was deeply embodied into a web of relationship, deeply embodied and deeply connected into a web of relationship with the environment that was alive and pulsating around me. So what is the Dieta? Since most of us have an idea around what this is, you can refer to Susanna Bustos' talk in 2012 for ERIE, where she breaks down in a lot more detail what is the Dieta and what are the effects of the different plants for different people. But in summary, the Amazonian plant Dieta is a process for developing healing and teaching relationships between plant and human. It's also how the traditional Amazonian healers learn how to use ayahuasca. The purpose of the diet is of two types. There's diets for curing, and there's diets for shamanic teaching. Ethnobotanists Jiroki, Clavo, Jove, and Parra de Santana outline 4 functions for dieting plants for the purposes of shamanic learning. First is purifying and cleansing the body and spirit. Second is expanding consciousness by developing sensitivity and intuition. Third is strengthening the body's defenses. And fourth is acquiring special powers of protection and defense against bad spirits or bad energies. I also like Morgan Brandt's definition that Dieta originated as a plant-based practice for developing attunement to the currents of spirit that underlie the material world. So the process of the Dieta is from anywhere from a few days to a few weeks to months to years. A dietero goes into isolation in a hut called a tambo and eats a very restricted diet of fish and plantains or of quinoa or oatmeal in more Western settings. And the dietero abstains from any strong energies of sex, bathing, a lot of communication, abstains from reading, abstains from music. The idea is that you're isolating the variable to only the plant that you're dieting. And the plant itself is not psychotropic, but the conditions that you're in make it such that you are in a slightly altered state of consciousness. One maestro told me that the only information you receive should be from the plant. And so there's a little bit of an indigenous science to it. For an apprenticing shaman, it takes up to 10 years, if not more, to really be qualified to learn how to heal with the techniques that you use from the plants. So going into the effects, sorry I don't have a better slide for this. I wish I had a great diagram, but I don't. So the Dieta engages accelerated psychosomatic healing, awakening the sensing body and innate ecological intelligence inside. The Dieta is a process of knowing through the body. It's not book knowledge. Further, the Dieta situates the dietero in relationship horizontally with the larger ecological systems that we're a part of and vertically to new possibilities for spiritual connection. For me personally, the Dieta was the most profound and most subtle transformative experience I've ever had. I'll explain what occurred during the Dieta period while I was in the jungle, cataloging my experience for my research, but really it was the integration period. I've been back for about 3 months now. The integration period was absolutely the most interesting part. In summary, upon returning, it was as if a lot of neuroses were just lifted. They were just resolved. Feelings of compulsion, hyperarousal, addiction, and maladaptive habits just disappeared for a period of time. Sensation in my physical and energetic body was hyper awakened. My relationships changed in drastic and subtle ways. I began seeing people very differently, strangers and intimate others, seeing them more deeply, more intimately, more for who they were, without the layers of projection and without layers of story that I had about them, without that conceptual mind. And my own sense of myself deeply changed. I've only been back for 3 months, so I think I'm still figuring out who I am. So during this integration period, at first when I came back, I had no defenses, no thoughts, no ego. I felt like blank and very much like an infant. And then this very interesting thing started happening over the course of the next few months where patterns started to drop back in one at a time, and it was patterns that I had worked on in the jungle, and as they dropped back in, I had a chance to actually digest and assimilate them and work on them again. And then as time passed, it was like the patterns started coming in a little faster, and then 2 at a time, 3 at a time, and became a little more to digest. But I got to approach these with new awareness and new distance, with a greater disidentification. So what happened? And that's the question I'm looking at now, and I've only begun to start answering it. So going back to during what happened in the jungle, the effects range greatly from plant to plant, and I dieted a variety of plants. And for each plant, the effects range greatly from person to person. So again, for more examples of this, you can see Susanna's talk that's posted online on the ERIE website. I'll outline some general effects spanning the variety of plants that I dieted during my first run of research that occurred last year. And I'm going to plop them into a relational integral psychological model, which emphasizes the axes of embodiment and relationality. So to break it down, I'm going to have to demonstrate with arms instead of slides. But horizontally, think of it as layers of the subtle body. And we're going to look at it through layers of the body, the mind, the emotions, and the spirit. These levels you can also correlate to layers of the triune brain, the reptilian brain, limbic system, and neocortex. Effects included physical effects, extreme heat, cold, shivering, sweating, trembling, purging, experiences of skeletal realignment, and changes in digestion. Mental effects included shifts in cognitive modes, decreased and increased mental activity and clarity, increased intuition, increased memories that were previously inaccessible, including traumatic memories and memories that had been previously overwhelming to face. And emotional energetic effects included waves of intense emotions, increased energetic sensitivity, feelings of emptiness, feelings of lightness, heaviness, spaciousness, release of energetic blockages. And it's important to note here that in traditional medicine, the physical affects the mental, affects the energetic. It's all considered one system. And looking at it, again, horizontally, in the context of our systems, effects included feelings of deep connection to the systems that we are part of my community, part of my family, part of the ecological systems I'm a part of, and this newfound experience as if everybody was in that community with me, even walking through the streets of Peru where I was a total stranger. So, looking at it vertically, we'll look at it through concentric levels of consciousness, and we can think of it even more as inward. And this is borrowing from the integral psychology of Brant Courtwright. These concentric levels of consciousness are a foundational level for the body, mind, and the spirit, and include first the inner being, the subliminal space, the shamanic space, the space of dreams, the true being, the realm of the essence or Jung's self, and the central being, which would be the domain of the Atman or experiences of unity consciousness with the divine or God. Effects on these planes included special interactions with the plant itself, which I'll talk a little more about in daytime, dream time, and in ceremony. This is really the meat of the diet. Feeling like you're actually talking to the plant, of course, awakening the subtle body, visual, auditory, and kinesthetic extraordinary experiences, identity transformation, a feeling of being guided, feelings of overwhelming love and peace and joy, experiences of death, experiences of rebirth, experiences of oneness, transcendent states, shifts in time, blurred differentiation between states, connection to collective consciousness in the archetypal realm. And further, the plants communicate very largely through the dream time. I'll put emphasis on this. To tell one anecdote, I had one experience where I was given a plant called tamamori when I was supposed to be given a plant called Cameronako. And the curandero's apprentice had given me the wrong plant and didn't tell me. And so that night I had these dreams where I was approached by a handsome man, and he said, "Hi, I'm Cameronako." I said, "No, you can't be Cameronako. Why would you be Cameronako?" He said, "Because you're dieting Cameronako," and just told me straight up. And the next day I said to the curandero's apprentice, "I had this dream about Cameronako. Why would that be? You gave me tamamori." And he said, "Oh, no, I'm sorry. I lied to you. I didn't want you to be angry." So this is an example of the plant. I know it's kind of weird, but this is an example of the plant came to me directly. It was like, "Hi, did you know?" And the experiences like that happened nightly with different sorts of lessons and messages about myself and the world. So how does this healing work? The plants are incredible doctors, friends, therapists. I'll tell a personal story. During one Dieta, I was experiencing extraordinary undirected anger, fear, and rage. I would wake up in the middle of the night and feel this strong presence with me, like sitting in my hammock with me, offering me insights and messages. Sometimes I would wake up in the morning and hit my pillow for an hour until I was covered with sweat. I was releasing a lot of energy. This would be followed by shaking and trembling, more sweating. And then a few times it was followed by experiences of emptiness or nothingness. And other times I would be visited by guides, like I was approached by a jaguar who then entered my body, and I felt this, aggression, but I loved it in this great way, and this ferocity. And then later that jaguar came up behind me and ate me. And and as I was going through all of these very intense feelings and a lot of memories and feelings of my biographical life that I had for my entire lifetime felt were unsafe to approach, I felt totally held, and I could these feelings were totally accessible to me, which is the important thing. Felt like I was in the womb of nature and being guided by the spirit of this tree. And this tree would show up visually in my dreams and in presence during the day and when I was walking through the jungle and in my ceremonies. So upon returning, I picked up Peter Levine's book, Waking the Tiger, about somatic therapies and trauma. And to my surprise, much of what Levine was describing about somatic experiencing for healing trauma was exactly what I was experiencing in the jungle, which was amazing during this diet, releasing undischarged energy and resourcing healthy forms of sequestered energies like aggression. I had never done somatic therapy or read Levine before. This is just an example of the kind of psychotherapist that the trees are. And this process was totally guided by the plants. And so my claim right now, my hypothesis, is that this natural ecological intelligence of healing that works through the plant Dieta process, works through releasing, reclaiming, relationship, and restructuring. And the integration process is largely around restructuring. Thank you, Larry. So I'm not going to go too much into detail on that because I want to cut to the chase because we still need to know the most profound secret. So, el secreto lo más profundo, the most profound secret, and this is coming from my maestro in Peru, is that you must love the plants. He said if you love the plants, they will give you everything. And if you don't love the plants, they won't give you anything. It's interesting to note that the maestros down there, there's two verbs to know. There's saber, and you saber a book. You know, yo sé un libro, but you conocer a plant. You are familiar with a plant. It's a word that they use for like, I'm familiar with this friend. It connotes relationship. So yo conozco las plantas, not yo no sé las plantas. Stephen Bear says, as a dietero, you ingest the plant, take it into your body, let it teach you from within, and keep loyal to it. The plant and the dietero are in two-way relationship through insights, dreams, felt senses, and song. The relationship between dietero and plant is sacred, powerful, and multi-layered. Bear says there's a complex reciprocal relationship, emphasis on the reciprocal, between shaman and other than human person. And plant, it's fear, awe, passion, surrender, friendship, and love. The curandero masters the plant by surrendering to it, not controlling it. And personal will must be forfeited in the name of loving trust. I only have a couple minutes here, so I'll cut to some bottom lines. There's something really special that happens during the plant Dieta process, and this is what I would like to research more deeply in the future because it brings up a lot of questions. In developing a relationship with the plants, there's this profound healing. According to the neuropsychologist Dan Siegel, as humans we become wounded through this natural occurrence of attachment relationships that are not fully supportive, and therefore our nervous systems become disintegrated. So how is it that working through the plants, we are able to create more stable relationships with ourselves, with others, with the universe, the world, and create that structure and stability within ourselves? How do we reshape our attachment formation from our lifetimes? By developing a relationship with a tree or a flower. This relationship building is profoundly healing. Why is that? How is that? And it's not just the relationship with a plant, it's a relationship with the whole natural world that's formed through the Dieta. The Dieta situates the person in this larger ecological context in the web of belonging. Gabor Mate says people's illnesses, mental or physical, are not isolated, accidental, or unfortunate events, but manifestation of lives in a psychological and social context, the results of experiences and beliefs and lifelong patterns of relating to the world. So we're created in relationship and we live in relationship, and this is the key to our health. So when you develop this relationship with the plants, after time, in your dreams or in a moment of inspiration, they will offer you an ikuro. They'll offer you this song. So what do the plants teach? They teach you a song. But it's not just a song. It's this sacred song. It's a vibratory gift from the plants that calls the spirit of the plant into the healing situation, and at the same time conveys the healing energy of the plant and also conveys the friendship between the apprentice and the plant spirit. It conveys this relationship that we have with the entire web of life. You can listen to recorded ikuros, but really the meat of it is if a shaman is singing the ikuro itself, it's calling in the spirit of the plant itself that is working on the patient. So in conclusion, what's crucial is that this innate intelligence that connects us to the web of life and its natural capacity to self-organize towards health and harmony lives inside each and every one of us. It's our ecological unconscious. The plants are gate openers with an intelligence all of their own. And I encourage all of us using entheogenic plants to honor these plants and the lineage of medicine carriers and the planet that they come from. But even without the plants, with chemicals or with nothing at all, with your breath, we still have access to this intelligence. So I encourage everyone here to listen to how nature is directing healing inside of us. Listen to the relationships that we are a part of. Listen to the trees. Listen to the grass. Listen to the soil, and through the felt senses of the body, and through feeling through the body, we can really engage our own healing through our relationship with all that is. Thank you.
And we have some questions. Here's one.
Hi, thank you. You know, I just want to say that something very special just came through you, and I think that it's because it wasn't just the information or the story, but it was like your experience really came through you.
Thank you.
And it was very special.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was wondering, you spoke of experiencing death,
Mm-hmm.
and you might have not spoken, but a lot of people do, about oneness, experiencing that. And I'm just wondering if you could speak to, like, isn't there still a witness that is still there, that experienced the death and is still there even with the experience of death, or oneness? Like, could you speak on that, your take on it?
Sure. I feel like maybe that's a question for someone with a little more, spiritual expertise than me, but my personal experience is there's a couple different forms of dying. There was one experience of literally just face on the concrete, and there was a witness, and there was nothing at all, which was fascinating to me. But I was still witnessing the nothingness. And so, yes, there was a witness. And then there's also the process that's common with ayahuasca or various medicines of dismemberment. And that includes the jaguar pulling you apart, or going through any sort of machine, and feeling death and feeling your energy actually scatter in this way. But there is something that holds it together. There's a witnessing consciousness that still holds it together. And so does that answer your question? Yeah.
Hey, Jordan, over to your left. Thanks for that. That was really amazing. I was wondering if you could talk more about your integration process and like both sides, and the transition of like going from feeling cleaned out and lighter to having each one of those neuroses or patterns like drop in one by one. And what was it like to have like the realization that was coming back?
Yeah, thank you, Tez, for asking that. So when I came back into an environment that was so supportive and loving, but still not an indigenous culture, and people they weren't familiar with exactly where I was or what I had been through, despite being so loving and supportive. And that in itself that was really challenging to be trying to figure out, like, where am I? How do I fit into this world? I'm not really sure. Yourself is created through relationship, and it was like this very jarring, like into a totally different context where I was a totally different person, and I'm like holding this very bifurcated feeling of both. And so on one hand, I was feeling very open to, and very spacious, very connected, very sensitive. And then as things started coming in, I started having a pretty common experience of grasping at that and feeling pretty devastated that my person was coming back. And even that in itself was a huge spiritual teaching around, and I was really blessed to have some guides to help me through this process. But that was a huge process. I think that many of us have had the experience of coming down from an entheogenic experience and going, "Oh no!" But you have that. I had that moment, that glimpse of non-dual consciousness for a minute. I had that glimpse of like a spaciousness that I could have, and it gave me enough of a bookmark and disidentification that as things came in, I could really assimilate them in my body and embrace states of contractedness as well as states of expansion, and understand that all of that was part of a cycle, and to trust that.
Hi, thank you. That was so awesome to hear you talk the way you do and tell your story and all the information and the way you have it mapped out. But I'm specifically interested in your actual experiences with, for instance, like the jaguar, being in the jungle, being eaten, having it run after you, or any other experiences where you're another person or in another realm, in another time, and you're with animals. Do you feel like in any way that this is an occurrence that happened to you in your history, or is it symbolic? Is it an Akashic record kind of thing that you're tapping into, or just a part of what you need in the moment for your healing?
Really good question. So, I don't know. There's no way that I could really, really know. I have I get some intuitions on things, and then I take some operating models that help me to understand my experience the best I can right now. And a lot of my personal operating models include, I have a sense that it was a past life experience coming up, or that this is, a visitor that I've known from another lifetime. This is an ancestor coming in, and those certainly are in my model. I certainly work with other spirits and archetypes as members of the intermediate plane who are working in, or if you're in a Tibetan framework, like members of the Sambhogakaya, and who are influencing matter in their subtle and large forms, or maybe it's micro forms, and are able to influence our consciousness and also like take a degree of individuation and able to engage with us. And I feel like it's in my operating model, which is largely supported by the integral or Bendo's integral model, that there are helpful entities in this realm as well as unhelpful entities in this realm, self-serving entities. And so I work with that, but I really have no way of knowing for certain. And I'm strongly convicted that within any entheogenic experience, any experience that comes up that might be a past life is in this moment. It is in your life right now. And any archetypal experience or experience engagement with spirits that's coming up is a message for you having to do with your life right now. And so the rest of how you model it doesn't necessarily, in my model, how you model it doesn't matter that much. Yeah.
Any other one question for you?
Hi, Jordan. Thank you so much for your research and for sharing with us. I find it very fascinating, your experience. I liked how you mentioned that the plants teach us to sing if we learn to work with them. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering if you could sing for us.
Oh my God. I will sing something. I don't know if it will be that. I just want to preface it that I don't know if I'd actually call it anything, but I'll sing something. Medicinaya, Runaisi, Medicinaya, Mari di di di, Swenya di 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 di, Swenya di 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 di, Ayahuasca ya. Mari di di di, ayahuasca ya. Mari di di di, sueña di 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 di. Medicina, mari di di di. Linda florecita ni pura medicina hi. Linda medicina hi. Linda doctorcita ni. Medicina ora yama ni. Pura medicina hi. Dari mari di di di. Medicine hi, mari di di di, I di 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 di.
Wow, thank you very much.
Did you sing that, or did it sing you?
I may have sang that, given I was feeling a little pressure, but that is an example of a song that just like I'm not a musician at all, and it just like popped into my head. I was waking up one day. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much, guys.
So thank you very much, Jordan. Yeah. Big round of applause for Jordan. Thank you.